David Pollack, the former Georgia All-American, NFL player, and of course worked with the mothership with College Game Day for such a long period of time. Let me start with the headlines here. What's your reaction to the ACC? They're bringing in Stanford, Cal, and SMU.
Well, you better keep up with the Joneses. I mean, it's got to happen, right? Like you see the Big Ten making moves. You've seen the SEC, obviously, next year bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, the ACC has to do something. And when you look at their contract, they signed a long-term contract with TV, and it was a bad one. Like, we can go to any business deal you want to go to, Dan. Like, we know it was a bad deal, and they're not making near the money. There's a lot of people in that league that have been wanting out for a while and trying to find a way out. So the league isn't set up in a great spot. If they could bring in some more juice, obviously – it might help. Maybe you can do something with your TV deal, but the deal that the ACC has with television is one of the worst in sports.
Yeah, I just don't understand it. You can add, but that doesn't mean, sometimes less is more, as opposed to this time is more seems less.
Well, and just like with the SEC and the Big Ten, like if you're going to bring in brands, like you're already a big organization, you're already making a big chunk of money. So like SEC. Like, who are the teams that would make sense for them to bring in the future? I think there's a couple teams you're going to see. Like, Virginia, to me, doesn't make sense. That market makes sense, but Virginia Tech fits in the SEC. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Their fans, the way they are, that area would be perfect. NC State versus North Carolina, like, that makes a lot of sense. Again, are we gaining a market? And I think that's what you got to gain a market so you can gain money and make the television go up. Well, that's where – I don't know if they're going to be doing that, but I do know that right now everybody's going, how the heck do I survive? Because the Big Ten and the SEC, they're the power brokers. They're controlling this whole thing. They're going to be okay. How do I make sure I'm okay?
More likely to leave the ACC, Florida State or Clemson?
I would say Florida State. I think Florida State would be – if I'm the Big Ten, like that's a market I would want to go down into and get, man. I got to get Florida. Like, I think that would be a huge coup for the Big Ten. I think that would make a lot of sense. I think that's something that we might see in the future.
This is the last year with the current playoff system. How is that going to change philosophies when it comes to scheduling, that you can have a couple of losses and probably still squeak into a 12-team playoff? Or does it change anything?
Well, I think – everybody who wants more parity, Dan, I don't know that this changes that because we're all going to be looking at the same teams in the end anyways. Like last year, we could have written it up any way you wanted to. You probably were going to get to a similar outcome regardless. You're still going to see the power teams in there. But I think the home field thing is going to be dope. Like, I think it's going to be cool to see home field advantage for a college football game. That will be really, really cool. What it will do, which will be cool, Dan, is late in the season, more teams are in the mix. Less predictability, like a lot at the end of the, you're going to watch these championship games. You're, oh man, like they could sneak in and be the 12 seed. Like teams that get hot at the end of the season, they could be a viable threat maybe now to the college football playoff as opposed to what we've seen in the past. So I think, listen, we did it because of money. We know that, like more money, more viewers, by expanding it. But I think more teams being in the mix, more teams getting in the playoffs, playoff home games, I think all of that will be good for college football.
But we sort of know what college football is every year. It's the most predictable sport we have of all the major sports. It's always going to be, two SEC schools are going to be in there. You may have Ohio State or Michigan, throw in maybe Notre Dame or Clemson. Nobody has a problem with the predictability of college football, do they?
No, I mean, I don't. You don't. Some people think that here's the thing, though. I think a lot of fan bases, Dan, would be like, heck yeah, we're in this thing at least. At least we have a chance. Like a lot of people aren't given a seat at the table year after year. Cincinnati's the only team from a non-power, 5 that got in the thing. Like how many teams are going like, I'd love to just see my team get a chance. Is it going to disprove any myths? Probably not. But at least you'll have a seat at the table for some of these teams that in a Final Four scenario would never had a seat at the table.
We're talking to David Pollack. He was a 3-time All-American at Georgia, former ESPN college football analyst. Has that sunk in yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. football season being here, Dan. I'm coaching high school football, which is so cool, man. And the football's in the air, and it's just fun to have football back. But no, it's definitely a change of pace for me, a change of lifestyle. I'm sure you can relate, like just going from being so busy and traveling, so much to now. Like last night, I'm watching the Florida Utah game. I'm like, I ain't got nowhere to be. I don't have. I wish I could turn off the lens of how to watch a game, and I would love to be a fan and just like watch. But I'm like, no. Like, golly, like, what does this mean for Billy Napier's reign? Like, what does this mean for Florida? Like, if you switch coaching staffs, this game would be totally different. Like that, Utah's maybe not as talented as Florida, but look how well coached Utah is and how, I mean, they know exactly who they are, what they are. So my brain still works that way, but football season is definitely going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, College Game Day lost a big member there with you because you brought energy there, and this is going to be tough. Every fall you get that feeling of, and you did this as a player, where your body tells you it's time to play football. Your body's going to tell you, it's time to do College Game Day. It's time to get on the road. It's time to do what you would do for, 5 or 6 months out of the year.
Well, and that's why I started coaching high school football last year. And because I got to get in kids' lives. Like I got to really make a difference. I loved what I did on camera, but I'm just talking. I don't have a lot of interaction. And so getting in these kids' lives and now coaching them and coaching the defensive line and like I'll ride the bus tonight, Dan, to South Forsyth from North Oconee. Like it's not gonna be a glamorous like chauffeur ride, but it's gonna be awesome. Like they gave me a headset, which was so cool. I was we had our first game 2 weeks ago against a rival. There was a 7th team in the state, and North Oconee, that Power T, took care of business. But they gave me a headset, and it was just so cool now to get in the world of, oh, this is what you're thinking. This is how you're thinking ahead. This is how you're doing this. And so when I broke my neck, football got taken away, but it came back in a different form. Football will never leave my life. Like it has been one of the biggest blessings and best things that ever came into my life, and it will stay in my life.
How did Georgia, your alma mater, pass Alabama?
I think Kirby learned a couple things a few years ago. Kirby's always been disciplined. He's always been tough. He's always been able to recruit. Like that dude, you listen to Kirby. I think he would blow people's minds if you listen to Kirby in a room of recruits and how that dude can work a room and get the pulse and knows how to relate to mamas and daddies and little girls, everything. But the biggest thing Kirby learned was he had all that stuff already. He learned how to get players to now love each other. He learned 1 + 1 is 3. Like he learned that taking them away from football and building this and building, camaraderie and love of teammate. Like he really learned that. I think that was the biggest differentiator between him being a really, really good coach and now being a great coach on his way to being an all-time great coach, was that it's more than just discipline, hard work, toughness. We've got to be together in a team, and we've got to love each other and fight for one another.
If I gave you Caleb Williams or the field for the Heisman?
The field, easily. Like, that's not even a debate for me. Here's the thing, Dan, you know how this goes with voters and all these different people that vote. There's a lot of votes out there. They don't want to do a 2-time winner again. Like, that's a part of the formula. That's going to be into it. You got to be in the national championship landscape again. USC's defense, are they going to keep him in it? They haven't in the past. I think it's going to be more of the same this year. He'll be exciting. He'll be dynamic. He'll be at the top of the draft board, but I'll take the field. And I'll tell you what, one guy off the radar, I think Carson Beck from Georgia, his odds are through. Like I think it's like plus 1,300. Like go put some scratch down on that. Like, because they're going to be in the national championship picture. He's going to play at a high level. He's got Brock Bowers and a bunch of skilled players around him. He's going to win a ton of football games. He looks like he could be a superstar, and he's a guy that I think might be in New York.
Great to talk to you again. If you need an outlet, any Friday, let us know. You got things on your mind. You want to talk college football, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Dan.
Thank you, buddy.
See you.
David Pollack.